Right, time now for a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France. And Catherine Viette joins me now on set. Hello, Catherine. Now, the media reporting on possible concessions by the French government regarding these controversial labour law reforms.
Right, that's in the wake of the massive demonstrations that we saw here on Wednesday. Libération, that's one of the left-leaning papers here in France, is reporting on its front page that Valls is possibly backing down a bit on all of this. It says that after those demonstrations, he's interested in playing the compromise card, proposing possible small changes to these reforms. If you look inside the paper, it reports, too, that the president is here trying to convince the young people to get on board with these reforms. They were some of the biggest groups of the protesters that were out in the streets on Wednesday. He wants to show that he's listening to their concerns regarding this, kind of presenting himself as a kinder, gentler version of a reformer here in France. And that's a theme that's being echoed by Le Monde. The article's headline that Hollande wants to avoid a split with the young people says that he's afraid that the movement could gain strength at high schools, universities here. And as we've been reporting, he's going to meet with students later today to hear some of their concerns. Actually, the Prime Minister is going to meet with students to hear their concerns regarding this. And the paper says that, this could prove fatal to the government if he can't get these young people on board. Points to previous demonstrations where the youth anger has derailed possible reforms, and says, that could be an undoing of what he's trying to achieve here.
Okay, well, the papers are reporting that the French government is determined to move forward with these reforms.
Indeed, and that's something he said he's not ready to scrap it yet. He thinks he can reach a compromise here. Parisien reporting that he's refusing to capitulate. That's their headline at the paper. He's willing to tweak parts of the proposal, as we've said, not going to give up here. And one of the things that's being discussed is a possibility of higher taxes on short-term contracts. That's known as the CDD here in France. That's one way that they could maybe make it less attractive to employers, push them to hire people onto the longer-term contracts or the CDI. Here in France, the majority of those under 24 on these shorter-term contracts. News website Mediapart as well, reporting that the pressure from the youth vote is Hollande is seeking a compromise. And that says, again, his presidency could be at stake here over this. He's pledged not to run for re-election if he can't get unemployment down. And he's betting this is the way to do it. But, if he can't get everybody on board, it'll prove much harder if he does decide to run again.
Okay, well, moving on to other news, and today is the 5th anniversary of that devastating earthquake and tsunami that caused Japan's worst nuclear disaster and the meltdown at Fukushima.
Right. Le Figaro has a special report. They went to visit one of the towns that was hard hit by the tsunami and the radiation contamination and the fallout afterwards after the nuclear plant meltdown. And they said that, there has been progress over the past 5 years, but there's still an immense amount of work that needs to be done. Many buildings still damaged, people who fled. Many still haven't returned. They're sort of ghost sections of these towns. But still, people there are expressing hope, and they see that, they expect a better future. Parisien is reporting on the contamination. They have an article from a nuclear physicist who's been tracking the radiation levels over there, and it says that, the contamination, sadly, still very high, and it will be high for years to come. Compares it to Chernobyl, saying if that was mostly a disaster that was in Russia that affected the ground and the earth, this has affected the sea. However, currents have moved some of that contamination away, but the sand on the beach still remains highly contaminated.
So won't be going for a swim there then. Well, L'Opinion is looking at the impact on the region's agriculture.
Right. It was a big farming area. Their headline, Bitter Rice in Fukushima. Decontaminated areas have been given the green light to start producing food again. However, there's a big fear that even though the government says it's okay, maybe it's not really. People are concerned when they see the origin label on there. So the food's not fetching very high prices. It's going very low prices. Farmers are having great difficulties here. The government's been working to maybe lift restrictions on food imported from the region. And in Japan, the biggest buyer of that, quote, bitter rice, fast food chains that use it in their dishes.
Okay, and finally, the French press is also taking a look at the impact Fukushima has on the nuclear industry right here in France.
Right, so Slate has this sort of special report, says that after this nuclear disaster meltdown, it sent shock waves across countries that rely on nuclear power, that could something similar happen? Of course, tsunami was the catalyst here, but still, we have aging nuclear reactors, and how do we take them offline? Should we move away from this form of energy? So here in France, there was a big debate over the Fessenheim nuclear power plant. There's several in the country that are, 40 years old, approximately around that age. The government has pledged to take them offline. Fessenheim is supposed to be shut down. And move to renewable energy, but it's a debate that's ongoing here in France.
Okay, thanks very much, Catherine. Catherine Viette there with the press review. We'll keep it here on France 24. Live from Paris continues with more news coming up in just a moment.